The next morning felt like the calm after a long storm. Zahra woke up to the sound of gentle rain tapping her window, the kind that makes the world feel softer. For the first time in months, she smiled without forcing it. Maybe peace was finally finding her. But peace, she soon learned, never stays long. Her phone buzzed, a new message. It was from Taemin, just 4 words. "Can we talk, please?" She stared at the screen for minutes before locking it again. She wasn't ready, not yet, but life had other plans. That afternoon, she got a call from her new manager. "Zahra, there's someone here asking for you." Her heart raced. "Who?" "He says his name is Mr. Kim." Before she could think, she found herself walking toward the main dining area. He was there, again, sitting quietly, no guards, no arrogance, just calm presence. "I didn't come to make things hard," he began. "I came to understand." Zahra crossed her arms. "Understand what?" "Why I can't stop thinking about you." She blinked, unsure how to respond. "Maybe because you're not used to losing." He smiled faintly. "Maybe because I finally met someone I can't buy." She sighed, sitting across from him. "Taemin, what do you want from me?" He looked straight into her eyes. "Time, just time." That day, they didn't talk about business or pain. They talked about dreams, the kind you whisper when you're not sure anyone's listening. Zahra spoke about wanting to open a small cultural cafe where African and Korean art could live together. Taemin listened, truly listened. When she was done, he said softly, "Then let me help you make it real." She shook her head immediately. "No, not because you owe me or because you feel guilty." "Then let me do it because I care," he said. The words hung in the air, heavy and dangerous. She wanted to trust him, but she also knew what love mixed with power could do. Days turned into weeks, and somehow they kept meeting, sometimes by accident, sometimes not. Once at the art district, once near the Han River, once in a small book cafe where they both reached for the same poetry book. Each time, something gentle grew between them, something that didn't need to be named. But outside their quiet moments, the world was still cruel. A gossip blog released photos of them together again, this time with captions like "Zahra's comeback, Billionaire still under her spell." The comments section was brutal. People mocked her, questioned her dignity, called her names she never thought she'd hear. That night she sat alone in her small apartment, scrolling through the comments until her hands trembled. She wanted to cry, but no tears came. Her phone rang. Taemin again. "Don't read those things," he said. "How can I not?" "Because they don't know you," he said firmly, "but I do." She didn't answer, just sat in silence, listening to the sound of his breathing on the other end. It was strange, comforting, yet painful. "Zahra," he said after a long pause, "you once told me not to own you. You were right, but maybe we can own our story instead." She closed her eyes, and for the first time didn't hang up. The next few weeks felt like sunlight trying to break through a stubborn cloud. Zahra began to breathe again, one small step at a time. She poured herself into work, staying longer hours, learning everything she could. Yet deep down, a part of her waited for his voice, his messages, his presence. Then one afternoon, while she was arranging flowers for the evening shift, her manager called out, "Zahra, a delivery came for you." She turned, confused. It was a box, no label, no note. Inside was a framed sketch of the Jade Blossom cafe she once worked in, and at the corner, a signature she'd recognize anywhere, KT. It wasn't expensive, but it felt heavy with meaning. Later that night, she got a call. "Did you get it?" Taemin's voice was quiet, almost shy. "I did," she replied softly. "You drew that." "I tried. It's not perfect." "It's honest," she said, smiling faintly. "That's better." There was a pause. "Zahra," he said, "I'm hosting a cultural charity event next week, African and Korean art together. I'd like you to be there." "Why me?" "Because it was your idea," he said simply. "You inspired it." For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then she said, "All right, I'll come." When the day finally came, the event hall was breathtaking, filled with soft lights, African fabrics, and Korean calligraphy blending in perfect harmony. Zahra arrived in a simple gown, her hair tied back, her heart racing. Cameras flashed, and she froze for a moment, but then she saw him across the room. Taemin, in a dark suit, smiling gently as if the entire world had disappeared. He walked toward her slowly, every step echoing with quiet assurance. "You came," he said. "You didn't give me much choice," she replied, trying not to blush. "I never meant to give you any reason to hide," he said. They stood together, side by side, as reporters whispered and flashes went off. But this time, Zahra didn't look away. She faced it. She stood tall, proud, glowing. Then something unexpected happened. The event was streamed live, and in less than an hour, clips of Zahra speaking about unity, creativity, and love beyond culture went viral across social media. People began to see her differently, not as the waitress, not as the rumor, but as the woman who brought two worlds together. But not everyone was happy. In the shadows of that same event, someone else was watching. A woman in a sleek white dress, eyes cold, lips curved in a knowing smirk. Her name was Min Soo, Taemin's former fiancée, daughter of a powerful business partner. When the cameras turned off, Min Soo stepped forward, her voice like silk hiding a blade. "So this is the woman who took what was mine." Zahra blinked, caught off guard. "I didn't take anything." Min Soo's smile sharpened. "Then you'll have no problem watching him lose everything, will you?" Zahra's stomach tightened. "What are you talking about?" "Let's just say," Min Soo whispered, leaning closer, "some board members don't like your influence, and they're planning to remind him who he belongs to." Zahra stood frozen as the woman walked away, her perfume lingering like a threat. That night she couldn't sleep. Her mind raced with what Min Soo had said. Could it be true? Would Taemin's company really turn against him because of her? She didn't want to believe it, but when morning came, her phone buzzed again, news alerts everywhere. Kim Taemin's shares drop after internal power struggle. Rumors link the CEO's downfall to mysterious woman seen at cultural event. Zahra dropped the phone, her heart sinking. Zahra sat on the edge of her bed, her thoughts a storm she couldn't quiet. It felt like everything she'd feared was happening again, the media twisting her name, people dragging her story into things she never asked for. She didn't even know whether to call him or not. When she finally gathered courage, she did. "Taemin," she said, her voice trembling, "is it true? The news, the board, everything." There was a long silence, then he sighed, tired and distant. "It's true, they're threatening to pull investments. They say I've lost focus, that I'm being reckless." "Because of me," she whispered. "No," he said firmly, "because they can't stand seeing me human." His words broke something inside her. "Then maybe I should walk away," she said, "if my presence keeps destroying what you built." "Don't," he interrupted, his tone sharp, desperate. "Don't say that." "Taemin, this is your world, not mine," she said softly, "and your world is bleeding because of me." He didn't answer for a while. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. "Zahra, you taught me how to live honestly. I can't lose that lesson now." But she didn't reply, not that night. The next morning, Zahra packed her things quietly. She needed space, to think, to breathe, to stop feeling like a storm in someone else's sky. She booked a bus to Busan, far away from Seoul's chaos. The sea air was cold and clean. She found a small cafe by the shore where she started helping the owner serve customers. It wasn't glamorous, but it was peaceful. Weeks passed, and she began to feel almost normal again. She'd watch the sunset each evening and wonder if Taemin was watching the same sky. She wanted to call him, but fear held her back. Maybe it was better this way. Then one rainy afternoon, the cafe door opened, and there he was. Dripping wet from the storm, out of breath, eyes searching for her like he'd been running for hours. "Zahra," he said, almost in disbelief. She froze, the cup she was holding trembling in her hand. Taemin, what are you doing here? I looked everywhere, he said, voice cracking. You disappeared. I thought I lost you again. She put the cup down and crossed her arms, trying to stay composed. You shouldn't have come. I had to, he said. You were right. My world was bleeding, but not because of you, because I built it without a soul. She looked away, her throat tightening. I stepped down, he said quietly. What? I resigned from the board. I sold part of my shares. I want to start something new, something that actually means something. Zahra shook her head. You gave up everything for what, for me? No, he said, stepping closer. For us, for what you taught me. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small folded brochure. It's a business plan, a cultural foundation, Korean and African creatives working together. You once said art could heal people. I believe that now. Her eyes filled with tears. Taemin, you don't owe me anything. He smiled faintly. Then, let's just say, I'm finally learning how to give without expecting control. The cafe owner watched from a distance, smiling softly. You two need to talk somewhere warmer, she said, handing them a towel. They sat by the window for hours, watching the rain fall. No guards, no cameras, no noise, just honesty. At one point, Zahra said quietly, do you think people can really change? He looked at her, eyes sincere. I don't know, but I know love can make them want to. Outside, thunder rumbled, but it felt like a blessing rather than a warning. Later that evening, Taemin walked her home. They stopped near the shoreline, waves crashing softly in the background. I used to think success meant being untouchable, he said. But you showed me that sometimes strength is in being seen. Zahra smiled sadly. And I used to think love was a distraction, but you showed me it can be purpose. They stood in silence, the wind playing with her hair, his coat draped over her shoulders. Then he said, almost a whisper, if I asked you to start over with me, not as CEO and waitress, but just as two people trying to build something real, what would you say? She met his gaze, eyes wet but steady. I'd say, let's start small. He smiled, small is perfect. Months passed again, but this time their story wasn't hidden. The world saw them together, working, laughing, creating. They opened the foundation, hosting art workshops and exhibitions across Seoul. Zahra led cultural projects that highlighted African artistry, while Taemin managed the logistics quietly in the background. For once, his name wasn't in the tabloids for scandal, but for something meaningful. When the first project launched, Zahra stood before a crowd of artists and said, love and culture don't compete, they complete. The audience erupted in applause. Later that night, as they watched the city lights together, Taemin took her hand. You know, he said softly, you never told me what you saw in me that first day at Jade Blossom. Zahra smiled, a man trying too hard not to feel. And now, he asked. Now, she said, resting her head on his shoulder, I see a man who finally does. The camera would fade here, the lights of the city dancing around them, the wind carrying a quiet promise. And for the first time in both their lives, they didn't feel like they were from different worlds. They felt like they'd built one together. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. What do you think happens next between Zahra and Taemin? Part 3 is coming soon. And this time, someone from Taemin's past won't just threaten their love, she'll test everything they've built.